Hello, this is Neil, and I am trying to figure out what format I want to do these broadcasts in. Um, I like reading my stories, and I don't know, I don't know what my audience is for them, but they're good for me to narrate and read and practice. But I don't know if anyone wants to use this for sleep or if they want. If I had 23 views on my last video, so it's not exactly a breeding ground for a lot of listeners. But so yeah, I'm just gonna record. We'll see how it goes. I think I'm gonna split this particular story into two parts because I want to not bore you to death, but at the same time I want to get a lot of stuff recorded. So here we go. This is episode 3, and this will be my football story part 1. And then the next episode will be episode 4, football story part 2. And then I'm going to be working on a longer form story here in the next little bit. I have an idea as to what it's going to be, but I'm not entirely 100% certain how it will end up. I guess that's the reason why we write, is to discover this type of stuff. So anyway, if you like this, if you could like and subscribe, that would be awesome. If not, that's okay, because 23 people listening, that's not even 23 people listening, that's 23 listens. So maybe 5 of you have actually listened to it and then and participated. So, and one of those 23 views is me and my wife. So it's this is not exactly a popular show, but whatever. Anyway, so let's get started, and we'll go from there. I'm gonna do boring breathing stuff, and if you want to, you can skip over this. I don't know if you could leave a comment and say whether or not you like the breathing, that would be awesome, because I don't know if I like doing it. So there you go. Okay, welcome to Storytime ASMR with me, Neil Winters. This is episode 3. Before we begin, and if you're so inclined, please pause this episode, like, and subscribe. Thank you for joining me, and let's take a moment to decompress. Adjust yourself in your bed so that you are comfortable wherever and however you are lying. You notice that the covers over your body are creating a cozy cocoon around you. The pillow cradles you in its comforting embrace. Now let's think about your breathing. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Fill your lung with replenishing air and exhale the contents of your lungs. Inhale again. Feel your lungs enlarge as you breathe in and breathe out. You notice today's tensions and worries start to slip away and exit your body with your out breath. Take another cleansing breath in and exhale. This is your opportunity to focus on yourself and your relaxation and your relationship with the universe. Continue to take cleansing breaths. As you breathe in and out, notice today's worries and concerns slip away with each breath. Now focus on your body, starting with your feet and toes. Stretch your feet, lifting your toes up. Now curl your toes tightly. And release your toes and feel the tension slipping away. Tighten your calves and take a deep breath in. Hold that tightness and tension for a moment. Relax your calves and exhale. Your body continues to relax. Tighten your core. Take in a breath. Release your breath and release your tightened core. Now ball your hands up into fists. Breathe in. Release your breath and relax your hands. Stretch your fingers. Wiggle them some and relax them. Flex your shoulders back. Roll your shoulders backwards. Breathe in. Breathe out. Relax your shoulders and release. Shrug your shoulders and acknowledge any tension you may be feeling in them. Take a deep breath in. Now release a big sigh into the air as you relax your shoulders. Continue to breathe while I tell you my football story, Part 1. When I was a kid, one of my favorite things to do as Christmas was approaching was to look at the Sears Christmas catalog. I'd open the catalog and skip the opening pages because they were full of clothes, first for women, then for men, and then for children. In my 6-year-old mind, those pages were pointless and boring. Nobody cared about clothes for Christmas. I mean, who would want that? I kept flipping to the pages that most interested me, closer to the middle of the catalog. The toy pages pulled me in, specifically the toys for boys. And within those pages, there were 2 categories that I gravitated towards. The first was remote-controlled robots, which were way too expensive and that I knew my parents would never buy. The second category was football uniforms. Most of my attention was focused on the football uniforms. I remember looking at the uniforms and the pads that went along with them. These were kid uniforms, so weren't made for full contact, but the idea of wearing them was really cool. I looked at the helmets, the shoulder pads, the leg pads, the football pants, and the football jerseys. I pictured myself wearing them and playing football just like the college and professional athletes I saw playing every fall. I envisioned myself tackling and being tackled as I played an intense football game. I think I asked for a football uniform nearly every Christmas from when I was 4 or 5 until I was 9 or 10 years old. My parents gave me my first football uniform probably when I turned about 6 or 7. This is that story. My dad was a railroad engineer. One Christmas Eve, he was told he was going to drive the passenger train from Helper, Utah to Salt Lake City, Utah. Because we didn't want to be separated as a family, my parents decided that my mom, my brothers, and I would ride the train with my dad to Salt Lake City. We'd stay the night there and then come back with him when he returned on Christmas Day. That sounded like a great idea. But one of the pressing questions we asked of my parents was, where would Santa bring our presents? Would he bring them to the hotel where we were staying, or would he bring them to our house, which would be empty? When it got dark on Christmas Eve, we drove to the train station in Helper so we could catch the train. The train pulled up and my dad took us to the engine to see his office. We got in the engine and saw all of the controls and even pulled the handle to toot the horn. When we were finally done checking out the engine, it was time to go back to the passenger cars and settle in for the 2.5-hour ride to Salt Lake City. The train we took was called the California Zephyr. This was before Amtrak took over all of the passenger train routes out west. This passenger train was owned and operated by the Denver and Rio Grande Western Railroad. It was about 6 cars long, including sleeper cars, luggage cars, and normal passenger cars. We sat in the regular passenger car as the train lumbered down the tracks. I was especially excited to go through the 2 train tunnels on our way to Salt Lake, but I forgot it was dark. About halfway through the ride, I asked my mom when we were going to go through the tunnels. Her answer, "We've already been through them, but because it's so dark outside, we didn't notice. But you'll get to see them tomorrow when it's light." During the trip, my dad even ventured back into our train car and saw us. I was super proud saying that my dad was the engineer driving the train. I mean, how many people get to ride a train and say that their dad was the engineer? When we arrived at Salt Lake City, my mom, my brothers, and I exited the train and waited in the train station for my dad to meet up with us after he was done with his engineer duties. After my dad met us, we got a cab and took it to the hotel in downtown Salt Lake. The cab ride was magical because it was Christmas Eve and I had never seen that many Christmas lights before. Salt Lake was lit up and Temple Square was beautiful with over 1 million lights shimmering in the night sky. We spent the night at a hotel and Christmas morning arrived. I woke up wondering if Santa had come to the hotel. He had not. I asked my mom whether or not Santa had visited our house instead of the hotel. Her answer was, "We'll have to see." I was hopeful that he had come to our house. Otherwise, the train ride might not have been worth it. So we had breakfast and took a cab to the train depot in the snowy Salt Lake City morning. I swore this time that I wouldn't miss the tunnels when the train went through them. After all, it was light outside for the return trip. The journey back to Helper was uneventful, and I did get to see the inside of the tunnels. Seeing the inside of the tunnels was a letdown because it was just darkness outside of the windows. We were traveling along on the tracks, and it suddenly got dark. Then almost as quickly, it was light once again. And that, as they say, was that. The other thing I remember seeing was a coal chute that crossed over the top of the train at the power plant in Price Canyon. I'm not sure why I still remember that, but it was something that stood out to me. Seeing the world from the train tracks instead of from the highway was exciting, and I was quick to notice anything unusual in that world. We arrived at Helper and unloaded from the train, so it was time to head home. We climbed in my parents' brown Ford Bronco and drove the 20 minutes home. I wondered the entire journey whether or not Santa had come. Now that the train trip was over, it was time to think about important things, like Christmas morning. We pulled up into the driveway and went inside. Much to my astonishment, Santa Claus had come. Presents were stacked under the Christmas tree, and there on the couch next to the tree were 2 red football uniforms, including pads and red helmets, for my brother and me. There was even a football snuggled between the 2 uniforms. We were beside ourselves with excitement. We would be able to play football and tackle each other just like they did in college and in the NFL. We unwrapped all of our gifts, and then it was time to try on the all-important football uniforms. We did, and they fit perfectly. Well, as perfectly as a toy football uniform made in the early 1980s could fit. We were so proud to be wearing them. My dad saw us in our uniforms and told us to pose for a picture. My blonde little brother and me, with my brown hair, posed with our helmets on and the football in my hand. We looked ready for a game. Those football uniforms were well used through the following months. We had a large backyard and played football in it regularly, running and tackling each other. We were really small, and so were unable to tackle each other in a way that would cause lasting damage. The football games sometimes involved neighborhood boys. Touchdowns were demarcated by a pine tree and a cherry tree at the south end of the yard, and a peach tree and a corner of the house at the other. The field was maybe 10 or 15 yards long, but that was plenty of room to make our Jerry Rice and Joe Montana moves. I got another football uniform later in life. This time it was a Los Angeles Raiders uniform, and it was equally as appreciated. And yes, I know I said Los Angeles Raiders. They were the Los Angeles Raiders at the time. I mostly loved the feeling of putting on the football pads and the idea of suiting up for a game. My next football love was watching our local high school football team play their Friday night games at the field across the street from my house. My cousin came to live with us during her senior year of high school and had a crush on one of the football players on the high school team. We would watch him from the stands and cheer him on. I could only imagine how cool it would be to wear the high school uniform along with real equipment, including really cool shoulder pads and helmets. All of the high school players seemed like giants, and I aspired to be just like them. I also remember watching one of our local junior college football games. The college players were better than the high school players, and the ball seemed to be thrown farther and kicked farther. The junior college football program was unfortunately short-lived and was discontinued after only a few seasons. When I was about 10, I became aware of the local Little League football program. I had a neighbor who played on one of the teams in the league and got to check out his equipment up close and personal. The helmet was sturdy and hard and had padding, unlike the toy helmet I got as part of my Christmas present. I tried to put on the helmet, and it was almost impossible to put on because it was so tight. The high school field had a dirt hill right next to it. My neighbor, my brother, and I, and one of my neighbor's friends went to watch a high school football game on the hill one night. It was cold and I could barely feel my fingers. My neighbor's friend smoked and put a cigarette on the ground, burning end up, and told me to warm my fingers on it. It didn't work. It just smelled like cigarette smoke, which I didn't like. Anyway, as we watched the game, my neighbor told us that he was on the kickoff team on his Little League football team and chased the kick returner down as he ran back with the football. Hearing this description, I knew immediately that I wanted to play Little League football, but my parents didn't seem like the type who wanted their kids playing football. Fast forward to my second year in middle school in the 7th grade. The summer before school started, my dad's railroad co-worker dropped by our house for a visit. This co-worker also happened to be the coach of one of our Little League football teams, the 49ers. He came inside and we all went downstairs to talk. Our basement had dark wood paneling and couches with brown and white floral patterns. We also had a green La-Z-Boy chair. The coach sat on the La-Z-Boy chair while my parents, my younger brother, and I sat on the couch and love seat facing him. I was surprised that I was invited to this conversation. The coach began the conversation by talking about how great Little League football was. He expounded on the opportunities it provided for boys to learn teamwork and how much fun it was to play in the league. He eventually got to the point. He was looking for a quarterback for his Little League team and wondered if I would be interested in playing that position. He also wanted my little brother, who was in 6th grade, to play for him. I was, of course, immediately interested. My parents, on the other hand, weren't entirely sure. They had questions for him, such as how much time it would take, how safe it was, and how much it would cost for my brother and me to play. I have no idea what the answers to those questions were, but he did his job and persuaded my parents to let us play. I didn't take much convincing. He informed my brother and me that tryouts had already begun for football and that teams were going to be picked at the next day's tryout. We needed to go to the tryouts in order to play for his team. We went to the tryouts. It was overcast with gray clouds and threatening rain. At the beginning of the tryouts, we ran some drills to show our skills. When I was in line for one of the drills, I told the kids around me that I was going to be automatically on a team. The kids, of course, asked, "Which team?" I answered, "The 49ers." Some of the kids who already played for the 49ers said the classic kid being disappointed expression, "Oh man." I remember thinking, I'm going to be your quarterback. But I was smart enough to keep that fact to myself. When it was time for the draft to begin, the folks running the tryout told all of the new recruits to get in lines in a circle so each team could pick their new players. Our recruiting coach told my brother and me not to get in the circle, but we were scared to break what we thought were hard and fast rules, and so got in the back of a line in the circle. When he saw us standing in the draft circle, he told the other teams that we were playing for him because we were, quote, automatics, unquote. It was a made-up reason for us to be on his team, but nobody realized that fact, and we became Price 49ers. Once all of the players had been picked, our team gathered in one corner of the baseball field where tryouts were being held, and the coach, along with the assistant coach, who happened to be my good friend's dad, told us what to expect as we started the season. They said the first several weeks would consist of nothing but getting in football shape and learning the team's plays, and then told us when the first practice was to take place. My brother and I showed up for the first practice. It was a sunny, warm, late summer day. There were somewhere between 25 and 30 of us ready to go. We thought we'd begin practicing football immediately. We were wrong. We immediately started with exercises and calisthenics. We stood in lines while our coaches instructed us on what to do, while the team captains stood in front of us to demonstrate the exercises. We stretched our upper bodies, including shoulders, arms, and neck. We ran in place and did jumping jacks. We got on the ground and stretched our lower bodies, including hurdler stretches, split stretches, and touching our toes. Then it was time for the, quote, most important exercise of all, leg lifts. Our coaches told us that by doing leg lifts, we would build up our stomach muscles so that we wouldn't get the wind knocked out of us during the course of the season. I had never heard of leg lifts, let alone done them, and neither had most of my first-year teammates. The coaches patiently explained to us what leg lifts entailed. The instructions were as follows. Lay on your back with your hands underneath your butt and your legs straight out in front of you on the ground. On the count of 1, lift your legs up about 6 inches. On the 2 count, keep your legs up and spread them apart as wide as possible. On the count of 3, bring them back together, and on the 4 count, return them back to the ground. Do this over and over in unison while the coaches count until you are told to stop. Then once you have done 15 or 20 or 50, or however many the coaches asked you to do, hold your legs up in the air until the coaches tell you to put them down. On the first day of practice, we were only able to hold our legs up for 15 or 20 seconds. The coaches told us that by the end of the season, we'd be holding our legs up for over a minute with our football pads on. That seemed impossible at the time, but proved to be true by the end of the season. At the end of the first practice, our coach got each team member's sizing information for pads and uniforms. At the next practice, he gave us our pad sets and football pads. We then got to pick out our red football jerseys and numbers. He said higher numbers are for the linemen and receivers, 20s and 30s are for running backs and fullbacks, and lower numbers are for the quarterbacks. I chose the number 12. At that same practice, we received our helmets, all of which were white, and had the appropriate protective padding on the inside. Nowadays, I think parents purchase all of their kids' football equipment, but at that time and price, all of the equipment and jerseys were provided by the league, but still probably paid for by the parents. I tried on my helmet and found it nearly impossible to put on my head, the same way it was impossible to put on my friend's helmet. The coach calmly explained to the whole team, we all had the same issue, that once we broke in our helmets, they would be easy to put on and take off. So we went through the discomfort of putting them on and taking them off in order to break them in. Within one practice, he was proved correct and my helmet fit me like a comfortable glove. My helmet was a traditional quarterback helmet for the time. The face mask had 3 horizontal bars, 2 close together at the top and one about 3 inches below the top 2, plus 4 vertical bars evenly spaced around the face mask. I felt more and more like a real football player. At a subsequent practice, one of the coaches brought stickers to spell our names on the back of our helmets. Because both my brother and I played on the team, they needed a way to differentiate our names on the helmets. They also needed to differentiate us when they yelled at us during practice. First names were not really in use on the football field. Last names were. So I became Winters 1 and my brother became Winters 2, despite the fact that my chosen number was 12 and my brother's chosen number was 14. By the third practice, we did basic football skills, including how to block, how to tackle, and throwing and catching. When we were leaving practice, I remember the coach asking a co-player who the quarterback should be. I was a little concerned because he had told me that I was going to be his quarterback. The thought that I might not be hadn't even occurred to me. By the 4th or 5th practice, we had tryouts for each position. I, of course, tried out for quarterback. I won the position of starting quarterback. Then it was time to start practicing offense and defense. My first task as a quarterback was to pick my center. That was done by taking practice snaps from everyone who wanted to be center. It also involved putting my hands on the center's butt, which was really weird at the time, but became more normal as the season progressed. I had 3 or 4 players to choose from and ended up picking probably the smallest, but most athletic of the bunch. He was still bigger than me. We had a great chemistry, and he would end up becoming a mind reader of mine by the end of the season. He was a great blocker and also got the ball to me efficiently and effectively. My good friend, whose dad was a coach, wanted to play fullback, the back who carries the ball on short down situations, doing the less sexy but incredibly important running work. He was a bigger kid, and there was a weight limit for which players could touch and carry the ball. When we started practicing our offense, my friend took reps as the starting fullback. He also began a strict diet to ensure that he came in underweight when it was time for the beginning of season weigh-in. Every day at practice, he was asked if he was watching what he ate and was reminded to exercise and stay underweight. When the time came for weigh-in, he was the last person on the scale. He walked up to the scale, a medical grade one with the bar and weights at eye level, and stood on it. The coach made some small adjustments to the sliding weights, and we all waited with bated breath. Finally, the coach was done adjusting the scale, and my friend came in underweight. We were ecstatic because we knew that he would be key to us making first downs and touchdowns during the length of the season. We continued to practice. The first play I learned was the 32 dive. For that play, I would fake a handoff to the running back on my left, turn around with my back to the line, and hand it to the fullback on my right. We practiced this play over and over again. We practiced the 28 sweep, which was a pitch to the running back for him to run around the outside of the line. We also practiced passes. I remember a few passes from the playbook. My favorite pass in theory was the fly. For that pass, the receiver would line up on the outside of the line and run like crazy until I threw him the ball. I don't think I was ever good at that pass. In fact, I don't think I was ever good at any passes, but the idea of completing it was always enticing. Okay, so that's it for episode 3, my football story part 1. I will continue this story next week, I hope. And if anyone is actually listening to this a long time after I record it, it'll be my next episode, episode 4. So, yeah, thank you for listening, and have a great night and sleep well. And I will talk to you again later. Bye.